workers is how Tophia puts it, and then starts blanket like shitting on everyone who cleans for a paycheck. First off, it is real work. Secondly, it's got shitty protections for people that are in it. Tertiarily, shitty cost of living because even services that provide it, they might be netting some capital, but they're not netting in scale what people who don't stand up are doing. And they have to get sub for hazmat when hazmat doesn't get called appropriately, just saying. Right. Okay, cool. So Sophia starts off, shots fired, every care and hospitality worker just blanket shot down by Tophia's mouth. The moment she rolls up on the scene. Not literally the moment, but the moment she rolls up on the scene about this particular discourse, right? Like Sophia's like let people catch strays before, but this one, this is a new. We start anew here. We give people, fresh starts and fresh chances sometimes. Then watch the fucking morose wash over my face as I get reminded that life is hard and tacky and never easy and straightforward, and it's jagged at best. Okay, cool. So. Tophia goes ahead and starts saying that people who do hospitality work don't work real jobs, not our opinion. This is the one Tophia lashed out with. Day fuckballs one out of the motherfucking gate. No delay from got out of the hotel because they weren't paying for the hotel to denigrating and defaming people who work in hospitality writ large. Also, this particular hotel. Also, So, the reason that this happens is the person uploaded a video not addressing Tophia at all, not bringing up Tophia by name, just talking about, stuff someone did. Tophia brought attention to this by directly engaging with them and shitting on them. Tophia has, gone at every step of the way to de-anonymize themselves and their family's efforts in trying to get away from a rough situation. This is another situation where the person refuses to get off of the fucking internet, won't stop talking shit, and uses the same generalizations and disparaging remarks that they say they're against when they feel like they need to be the big man on campus and wear their dick high and mighty and proud, and use it to fuck over others. The second we get power and our powerlessness goes to our head, we might go a little bit too fucking far. We need to catch that in ourselves and abate it before it progresses, gets like this, before it escalates, before anything awry goes happening that can just serve our cohorts on Terra, the pretty planet, full of pretty little things that I love so very much equally. Okay, so Tophia rolls up talking shit on hospitality workers, de-anonymizing themselves and their family, brother included. Consistently does this, assumes that everyone engaging them has malice to the point where they start imposing or implying that every attack or every statement about every assessment about them even is racially motivated, which we have no substantial evidence to support outside of them saying it. Did they ever take a moment to say that there is any information outside of that that would support it? No. Would I listen if they said it immediately after I said those exact words? No, I'd ask them to rephrase it to me in a different way and to make it just as impactful. That sounds really persnickety and needy, but I also learned to not trust shit people can't say they understand and repeat back to you in a way that they understood it. Anywho's, there's my concession for what I would do to listen, and there's why I wouldn't given the current state. Anywho's. We move. So, with the de-anonymization as well as the initiation of directed shitfire at the de-anonymized persons in Tophia's court, Tophia then began a day-long litany of shitting on this person while being dishoused as their sole addition to their content. I understand they are upset and afraid. However, bruh.
I'm a human being. I am homeless. I can't move in my car. You're harassing us constantly saying, oh, well, she's going to work. She has a right to go to work, but when she's liking comments saying she's trying to record us and she puts on sunglasses and a hat to try to disguise herself,
fucking wild.
So we wouldn't think anything suspicious.
Hey, what's in this pocket?
That's not right. And I even said there was comments, and I showed my brother comments. It's a public property. We have a right to film. Her work was not there. So if you're liking comments trying to film me, that's a problem. For my safety, I'm gonna film because I need the proof And you literally admitted it in videos. She admitted it in videos. So her walking by and literally liking comments and responding to comments saying she's gonna film me does not make her case any better when she keeps walking by. Mind you, she could go.
Mind you, she's doing it in public and there's not enough protections for dishoused people in general because the protections that are existent and the resources that are present are hyper localized, much like a lot of things in the states, inclusive of alcohol legislation and regulation, or regulation rather. So I don't know what grounds Tophia's family has to stay there, but it sounds like they're being allowed to stay on the property, just not in a room. And I don't mean to be a fucking uppity bitch when I crack this one, but if I were allowed to stay on a property that I've otherwise been kicked the fuck out of the kindness of someone's heart when they could have just as easily fucking trespassed me, I'm gonna try to be a little bit hair grateful. And I'm not trying to impose my experiences or standards on anyone else or their experience. It's just, it's a little hard for me to fucking get past it. Okay, cool.
Go to work.
What's said is
Like,
fucking
I'm
said.
gonna say, yeah, she went to work, but she's trying to disguise herself with a cap and a hat to film us because she says she was.
How do you know that she's trying to disguise herself? I'm wearing a hat, and if I put sunglasses on, does that mean
Yeah.
I'm trying to disguise myself?
True.
I don't believe so.
I wear sunglasses and a hat a decent amount of the time too, for reasons that involve reasons.
So, just because somebody puts on a hat and sunglasses doesn't mean they're trying to disguise themselves.
Mind you, she literally doxed what my brother's car looks like. What was the reason for that? Why is she acting like she's a victim when we just left the place? We didn't even call. Mind you, the lady that worked there said, I would allow you guys back. I would work with you, but corporate said we can't have you here because of issues with rent. It had nothing to do with our room being dirty, mind you. She's just trying to use that, using my situation to make money and make herself look good.
No, it's effectively a very tepid communication of a very important matter. It's that you can come back if you have money, you're not barred from the fucking premises. You can come back, they're not trespassing you. You realize if they don't want you there, you're staying in their lot. You realize they can tell the authorities, hey, I don't want this person here. Get them out of my private fucking business lot. Depending on region and location. Some places you cannot, some places you can. I would keep that in mind that I don't think they are executing upon their full ability to limit this person's access to safety, shelter, or reliable fucking shelter, rather. Though they have limited access to their property, so they may continue to turn a fucking profit or likely clean it to stop the consistently leaking amounts of money you have to put into long-term repairs of condominiums, especially, where everything is all complex and dense and nutted up and you have to cut into someone else's house to do something in yours, or even hotels or apartments in the same kind of structure, right? I feel like they don't have, if it's corporately ran, even if it weren't, that would be an adequate fucking excuse and a reason, and it's a reasonable boundary. Because that one's contractually hopped into from the start. They are going out, they are not doing the further extent of what can be done to limit someone's access to reliable shelter. That's what's ringing to me. So by the way, is while we continue, that's what's standing out to me is no one's access to shelter has been limited. Even though, like, yes, there is no hotel room. But hold on, wait, there's more. But okay, there's no hotel room. All right, but check it, right? Hear me out. There's a lot, and a lot of those are private. Now, Wally World operates in a way and such they allow people, the Waltons, to stay in lots sometimes to seek shelter. It's very handy for a lot of folks. I think that's a choice they make many places, and I could be wrong about the magnitude, but I feel like if we get a where from Tophia, or we go back and we find out where, and we find out that it's somewhere that doesn't ensure access to that kind of shelter security, we're going to look at this in a even more charitable light, and I would like to do that at some point, if not tonight.
Good, when that's not what the lady told us in the office. And after my brother took what he could from the room, he got all the important stuff because he had someone moving him. He didn't know how long he was going to have them for. So he had the person moving him. So he hurried up and got everything that was important that we needed and left the other stuff, and she ran real quick after that and started filming. Mind you, our stuff was sitting there for almost a day and a half, probably a whole day, and she's too busy filming TikToks and not doing her job. So I don't
Okay, now you need to explain what she's not doing.
know.
Because you can do TikToks and do your job. Like, gonna be honest, a lot of folks will do their hustle on their breaks, on their lunch. They'll take time, like, they will get off work and get cracking. They'll do it right before work and get cracking. You know, people have different limitations, each of them. You don't know people's schedules. You can't assume it without asking. You can ask and then start to like bring that to light, but you need to get the information first. You can't just assume and launch off with accusations.
I mean,
I
me
pause at the worst
personally, I would not call
points.
homeless people animals for using the restroom outside. Considering how Albuquerque is, it is
Shout out
very
to you.
hard
How are you?
to go to the restroom unless you have a home or you're a paying customer.
Albuquerque. There we go.
I can't help it, right? And like I said, I didn't use the restroom on the sidewalk when she was walking by. I don't know. I don't appreciate being called an animal, considering
You
the
weren't
fact that
directly called an animal. The way you maintain your domicile was called, in quotes, acting like an animal. Animals, they act like animals, is how it was phrased, right? Okay, press release court gives City of Albuquerque 6 weeks to comply with order protecting legal rights of the unhoused, published in September 2023. Okay, let's read. Let's read. Parse some text. Sick. September 21st, 2023, Albuquerque, New Mexico. Barnello? Tell me if I'm wrong. Leave a comment. If you're watching the VOD, leave a comment. Tell me that I can't pronounce stuff. Give me the video to the thing that says how to pronounce it and show me how I could have checked in 2 seconds. Tell me that I could have tossed it through TTS. I don't know. Leave a comment, say hi, tell me how you're doing, what you've been up to, stuff like that. I don't know. There'll be timestamps. Be happy. Love me. JK. Don't actually love me. Speaking of timestamps, I'll give you resources of what we're looking at. I'll try to have the link we're looking at timestamped in the VOD as well as in chat. So there you go. You lovely fucking goobers who tolerate my egregious ass. Okay, cool. Shits and giggles. Thank you for tolerating me, by the way. Oh, by the way. Okay, cool. Albuquerque, New Mexico. About... I want to look it up, but I'm also being a whingy. Okay, so a court issued a preliminary ruling on that date, the 21st, giving the city of Albuquerque 6 weeks to change city practices. It punished unhoused people for their presence with their belongings being outdoors on public property. The court order will go into effect November 1st, 2023. It will prevent the city of Albuquerque from violating the constitutional rights of unhoused people by sending them or threatening them to jail for being outdoors in public spaces when there is no indoor place for them to live, whether it is actual housing or emergency shelter space. This ruling will also prohibit the city from seizing and destroying unhoused people's personal belongings without providing notice, an opportunity for hearing, and an opportunity to reclaim their property. The order contains exceptions that apply to school property as well as to sidewalks, streets, and alleyways. If the obstruction possesses an immediate, that apply to school property as well to school properties, sidewalks, streets, and alleyways. Okay. If the obstruction poses an immediate threat to the safety of any person, the temporary ruling will remain in effect. Okay, cool. Street alleyways, if the obstruction. Okay, if it's in an alleyway, school area, sidewalk, if it poses an immediate threat to safety, then it can be invalidated. Gotcha. I had to parse that like 3 times. The temporary ruling will remain in effect until a final ruling in Williams versus City of Albuquerque. The plaintiffs in this case, unhoused people living in Albuquerque, are represented by the law firm Ives and Flores. Flowers. That is one of my favorite surnames. I love this surname. Beautiful Flowers, along with the ACLU of New Mexico and the New Mexico Center of Law and Poverty, NMCLP, and Davis Law of New Mexico. The city of Albuquerque has a housing crisis. There aren't just enough affordable housing places for people. We need social housing, by the way. we need to match cost of living to we need to actually pay people a reasonable cost of living. We need to see a good increase in that. We need people to make fucking unions. And as a stopgap while people's pockets are excoriated and they're left without fucking options along the way on the slow drag to better fucking policy to support them, which will take a long fucking time. You can locally do things like pushing for fucking social housing locally, and you can definitely demand that. Make sure you do your local fucking elections. Local elections are more important for seeing these changes in your area than hinging it on the hopes of any other representative of any larger scope. So make sure you get active in your fucking in your elections that happen locally whenever they occur, inclusive of special elections. This is how you stop this kind of bullshit from happening and going so long and festering, rather. Why can things like this languish? Because we don't go out there and help people as people who care about other people. Cool. So, Flores, pretty name, favorite surname, 10 out of 10. Love seeing it. Here for flowers all day. My favorite is an iris. If we're talking about getting given flowers, like I've dated a singular person who was like, "What kind of flowers do you like?" And I was like, "Irises." And he brought me irises, and I was like, "Score." And when my mom passed, my old job was like, "Do you like flowers?" I'm like, "Irises." And they're like, "Okay, cool. Here's some irises." So like, I like irises. They're really pretty. Anywho's, my mom also got me irises when I was a kid. Like she would occasionally like bring me flowers because she was like, "You like these? They're pretty. Here you go. I'm friends with the florist. They send you one. Good regards." I went to go see my florist friend and I got a donut. Here's half a donut for you. And I brought you flowers, baby. And that's what my mom would do. And I'd be given like flowers and a half of a donut. And I would go sequester myself in my room and read something. I would put them in a vase too. I definitely put them in a vase. And I would do appropriate care for my flowers. But more importantly, I was going to go squirrel away somewhere where no one could see me and just snarl and other such things. Anyway, so flowers. Flores. Okay, we all know this is happening and it's getting worse. We do. The city isn't spending a fraction of what it needs to address this problem. And also, by the way, last little non sequitur. A while back, the city of Los Angeles asked for guidance on how to best assist dishoused people, and they got word back. Memory serves from the CIA, a former CIA director, whose guidance was to ensure that there is access secularly to housing that is not dependent on abstinence from substance use. Because if you depend on abstinence from substance use, you're putting additional unnecessary stress on people as a barrier to help, which, if failed once, can have a detrimental effect. And a more appropriate thing to do is to ensure that everyone has something they feel is worth fighting for. I'm going to disclose that last bit was reductionified. Something worth fighting for is the act of reduction, but there is a correlation between the statements that this person makes from an earnest position, trying to assess the situation, and you'll also see a correlation to the ravings of defrocked scholar and absolute unkind person, Theodore Kaczynski, who also went and tried to say, "Oh, people just need to feel purpose." And the inappropriate response was to lean to desperation and go with anger and the desire to see your change actioned upon the world, even with willing to throw out other people's well-being in consideration. So those are two stark examples of how you can make a similar assessment and apply yourself wicked differently. Okay, cool. We fucking move. So, anywho's, like making sure you have housing that is there for people, that isn't dependent on abstinence from substance use, is more important for you than to ensure that they do that. Like TLDR, I get that the fucking program might work for you. It isn't for everybody. If you can't see why, maybe you need some more life experience, kid. Come at me when you're done. Okay, cool. We all know that this is happening and it's getting worse. The city isn't spending a fraction of what it needs for funds. The city needs to immediately identify. I'm going off of research. It's not galvanizing or a political take. It's one off of fucking research. God damn it. So it's very easy and tepid for me to say that. If we find otherwise, we'll go read it together and talk about it and have discourse and parlance about it and the new analyses and what it's yielded. Okay, cool. The city isn't spending a fraction. It's cruel and unconstitutional. And they say a word that I want to not use for this. I find it to be an ignorant choice, but I would rather not call it stupid. The city needs to immediately identify places where people can lawfully be and take hard steps to address affordable housing, employment, and opportunities for the and treatment of people with disabilities. Albuquerque's housing crisis is largely of its own making, and zoning and development regulations have prevented the amount of houses from expanding to meet the growing population numbers, rising rents, housing prices, and the decline of federally subsidized houses have led to a critical shortage of affordable housing units. Rents in Albuquerque rents in Albuquerque increased between 10 and 19.9% the first quarter of 2022, and such increase inevitably pushed some people out of their homes. Also, at about a little bit after this, the price of housing in Albuquerque and surrounding areas has gone down substantially. So, howdy. Um, every $100 increase in a locality's average monthly rent is associated with 9%. Okay, increase in homelessness. That makes sense. I remember my first job and how hard it was to when the place I lived doubled the price of rent. It was going from $1,000 to $2,000. I could not support that. I had to move. It's very scary. It just happened for me in a year with very little notice. Lance Wilson, a plaintiff in the case, noticed that Westside Shelter was usually at capacity, ridden with bedbugs, mice, and cockroaches, and that every pod was dirty and smelled like urine and feces. If you don't have people who are paid appropriately to do hazmat, it doesn't get better. We need hazmat. The video captured on Albuquerque Police Department's officers. Okay, we're going through experiential stuff. 1 second. More stories from the plaintiff's testimonies. Understood. I'm going to make sure you have sources, right? Okay, cool. And we're going back to what we were doing. Okay, howdy. Zero, you asked what we were talking about. We were watching a YouTube video and someone made a statement that I had to then go investigate because they said something with their chest that is based in a conflation and a lack of adherence to giving us the most accurate representation of the universe that we exist in. And I like finding out when people tell me bullshit.
Not right to have a home or homeless people.
TLDR, there are protections for Tophiachu. I was incorrect in my assumption that this area may not have protections for dishoused people. It appears that they aren't barring them from they can still come back, right? My considerations being they could likely have trespassed them, which apparently they can't from the consideration that likely sort of in the area outside of the property. They're not causing any harm and they're not threatening, right? Do you have tea breaks from talking so much? I don't know. I have smile breaks where I smile all the time. How are you? What are you up to? So when Tophiachu makes a statement like that, I have to go and suss it out and actually see if it holds up and holds water and holds weight, because I don't like taking people's word for it. I like to believe people when they express the magnitude of the situation and they talk about how they're hurting. I love to listen to them and hear what they have to say because it's important and they need to be heard. But I also know that people in pain can sometimes misrepresent what they are going through and experiencing, right? Because it's okay to over-fucking port. It's okay to fucking say it's okay to say, my leg is gone, or I can't feel my leg when you don't understand the pain. It's fucking K. It's fucking K. You're there to scream when you need help and get fucking help. That's important. It's also important to be able to parse where the discourse is drifting from. When listening to people, have to understand that giving that experiential shit is likely framed from the lens that allowed them to get there. So you can't assume that lashing out at them will invalidate them in a way that lets them grow. You've likely got to massage them out of there. And in this case, I don't know if this person wants to accept that they were not being met with fucking racialism, or I don't think they are willing to accept that they may not be, or rather, we can't even engage if they were or weren't because they didn't bring the requisite information to make that kind of call at fucking all, So that's okay. But you just can't tell me some bullshit and me not look it up. You can't do that. That's just first off, not gonna work. Secondly, not gonna work. You tell me some words, I'm gonna make sure they line up with reality. Because I care about everyone equally.
So I don't know. I mean, me personally, I would not call homeless people animals for using the restroom outside.
Again, the person never called dishoused people nor people of color, as Tophiachu has consistently raised it, in quotes, animals. The person who is in question said, and if memory serves, I'm going to try to quote them the best that I may. Animals, they lived like animals, in regards to how the person left the room when they were tasked with a portion of cleaning it, especially I went to lead in with Tophiachu initially was denigrating and saying how people who work in hospitality aren't working real jobs, which is bullshit. Night vests, you take care, homie. Rest well. So when you lead off like that, I'm not saying you invalidate your rights to anything. I think you always deserve to fucking have understanding and some degree of fucking patience, right? I'm not saying, oh, because you said a foul thing, no. I think because you said a foul thing, you still deserve the same consideration as everyone fucking else. But I also can assess that you're fucking being rude and unkind. You're levying very vast generalizations. And they're very fucking much steeped in a lack of consideration for people who are in a position that isn't yours. And Tophiachu's trying to hear, like, also just trying to say that someone's definite, like, I don't see the racialism. I don't see the application of it. I don't see it being used to target a person. I see it in an assessment of someone's state of how they maintained their domicile. And I will eat shit if I'm fucking incorrect. And I will look at it and learn.
Side, considering how Albuquerque is, it is very hard to go.
Considering how Albuquerque is, we just got done reading it since 2023. In November, there have been regulations in Albuquerque to ensure that dishoused people, unless they are immediately causing an issue to public safety in a, like, unless they're in like an alley or a sidewalk causing an issue that prevents people from doing things safely, there will be no action taken to remove them or their belongings without actionable paths forward. Their belongings will be preserved pending a hearing and a chance to pick up their belongings. They cannot be removed from places that would incorporate where Tophiachu is. Tophiachu is not reported being approached for even attempted trespassing. Sorry, the ACLU worked hard so you can't make that conflation, and so you can't disseminate that misinformation. My deepest and most heartfelt apologies. Thank you, ACLU. Copy link. Oh no, hold on. A copy of the judge's order can be found here. Page not found. CV 2002-Williams.pdf. Okay. Fight with me. I'm such a goober. Am I a little bit fucking hyperbolic here? Yeah.
To the restroom unless you have a.
I love everyone equally. So I also couldn't stand for misinformation because it impacts another person who isn't this person who would also be in a bad place of misinformation. We're allowed to foment about them furthermore, and also not being able to appropriately assess the situation might blind people with misappropriating their abilities to fucking take actionable fucking steps. Oh no, I'm just whingy.
Or
Don't
you're a
mind
paying
me. It's
customer.
fine.
I can't help it, right? And like I said, I didn't use the restroom on the sidewalk when she was walking by.
It was your mom.
I don't know. I don't appreciate being called an animal.
It was your mom.
Considering the fact that I'm not an animal.
You
I'm
are
a
an
human
animal,
being.
so am I, so are all of us. I
Like,
don't know if
it
you need
make-
to hear this. The reason we delineate between human and non-human animals is because we are, first off, animals like the rest of them. Much like the beautiful shrew and the cute little RNA homies. We are state machines. The difference between us and state machines, like